Hello and welcome back to Unleash the Goats, where we unleash ourselves upon the Star Wars franchise with reckless abandon, and nobody quite knows what we'll say next, least of all us. I'm Nat, she, her. Angela, say hi.
Hi, I'm Angela /Faye, she, her.
Sugar, say hi.
Hi, I'm Sugar, she, her.
This is a long-awaited episode where we are talking about Andor Season 2. I don't know if any of our listeners have, heard of it.
I don't know if you know about Andor. It's not like we talk about it every day.
No, yeah, it's not like I've ever talked about it before.
It's not like it comes up every single episode we do.
Yeah. So, obviously, spoilers for Andor Season 2, and also Rogue One, which is
and
probably
Andor
a given.
Season 1.
And Andor Season 1, I guess.
Actually, spoilers for Star Wars.
Yeah. But specifically Andor Season 2, as the thing that has recently come out.
Yeah, and also A New Hope, probably.
Yeah, the original trilogy, maybe. We might reference it.
Spoilers, they blow up the Death Star.
What?
I know.
Oh my god. What's a Death Star?
It's a Death Star. You know, I'm not sure how you made it through Andor Season 2 and did not know that one.
They talk
That
about it a
would be
lot.
impressive. They talk about it a little. We see it a couple times. Anyway, does anyone want to go first with our, very general rating review?
I can go first just because I think I'm going to have a more negative review than everyone else's. Just glancing at your guys' notes and the number you put at the top, which is unfortunate. So I guess for our rating, for listeners who don't remember or first-time listeners, we do out of 5 hugs. So I gave 3.5 out of 5, which I believe is down a point from last season, which I think I might have given a 4.5. So going in, I had a lot of really high expectations. I really, really loved season 1. I obviously expected some high stakes, more adult storytelling with a focus on sort of the nuance of the rebellion, a lot of location shooting, really beautiful costumes and sets and things like that. I did know that it was going to be doing the 4 arcs with 3 episodes each that all dropped once a week, with a year passing in between each arc, and that it would end right at Rogue One, which obviously is a really unorthodox structure. We'll talk more about that later, but I had a lot of high hopes that would be managed appropriately, and in a way that didn't feel rushed or whatever, badly paced. I'm not sure it met all of those expectations. It did obviously have a lot of good location shooting. It was really beautiful. It still has a lot of really high quality acting performances and dialogue and things like that. But I did feel like the character development and the pacing took a bit of a nosedive. In particular, I felt like the character development for Bix and Cassian and Mon Mothma was not all that strong. And there are places where it's kind of contradictory and confusing, both with itself and with Rogue One. And that unfortunately is kind of a central thing for me. That's really important. I do need the character development to work because that is kind of the story. And so I did have to knock it down a bit because there was enough of them to cause me to feel like it hindered my enjoyment of the show a bit. So yeah, that's my non-spoilery review, I guess. Someone else can go.
Angela, what did you think?
I gave it 4.5 out of hugs. I actually agree with many of Sugar's criticisms, but I was rating it solely based on the number of hugs that I got, and I got many hugs. I got many hugs. So I knocked it down half a point because of the criticisms that Sugar has just voiced, and also because Will I love, and he didn't get enough screen time, and also they killed Senta. So those 2 specific things, and also the fucking Bix baby. So those 3 specific things knocked it down half a point for me.
We'll get to the specifics.
We'll get to the fucking baby. But, we got Bix and Cass hug, we got Cass and Will hug, we got Palin and Brasso hug, we got Will and all of his many girlfriends hugs, we got Casso and Brasso's corpse, so sad.
What do you mean many girlfriends?
It's
he has a girlfriend everywhere he goes. Everywhere he goes,
2.
he has a new girlfriend.
He did not have one at Saw's camp.
I'm sorry, are him and Saw not dating? Because it kind of seemed like it.
That's not what I got.
Does he get a hug with Saw?
They do drugs together. It's like the same thing. That's like a bro hug.
Oh my god. Okay.
Anyway, so many hugs, and this is just like the first 3 episodes. I like skimmed through the first couple episodes and was like, how many hugs do I get from like the first arc? Many hugs. So I had to give it 4.5 hugs. Just, I expected a lot going into this. I expected it to be really good, and I expected to get a lot of character development, and I got some of that. I didn't get everything I wanted. I was hoping for a lot more Velcinta, and I was hoping for a lot more like organic character development than I feel like I got. I liked the episode structure that they did, but I feel like they didn't really take advantage of it the way that I were hoping that they would, if that makes sense. Which we can get into it. But
yes, we'll get into the weeds later.
Yeah.
All right, Nat, you can't avoid it now.
You can't avoid it forever.
Your turn.
Here's the thing, is that I would give season 1 like 7 out of 5 hugs. Like, season 1 of Andor is like one of the best seasons of any television show that I've like ever seen. I have very little to complain about in season 1. And so because my expectations were so high, I had to like go back and forth with myself to be like, okay, it was better than like, I'm looking back on season 2 and it's like, I know that I liked it more than I remembered, but it wasn't nearly as good as season 1. I have written down that I gave it 4.5 out of 5. I might drop it to 4. Because the way that I, like, so many things about it, like, for the most part, the acting, the costumes, the sets, the cinematography, the music, like, so many things I thought were so beautifully well done. And if I look at the arcs individually, for the most part, I really like what they did. I think together, the time jumps, and this is a skill issue, because I forgot that we were covering 5 years. And so we started the first 4 years. But we jump from a year from end of season 1, right? And season 2 starts a year after. And I forgot we were doing that. And so I was going in and I was like, oh, weird, a time jump. And then the next 3 episodes drop and I was like, weird, a time jump. Like, girl, that's like the one thing. I don't pay attention to any, like, advertisements, not the right word.
That doesn't pay attention to news. It's
I don't pay attention to news. I'm just like, oh my god, it drops on this day. That's all I need to know.
That was really all Nat needed to know.
But that was really jarring every single time. And
that's an interesting thing to have, actually. I'm glad you didn't know that, because I think, like, both Faye and I knew that going in, that it was going to have the jumps and stuff.
And I mean, you figured out the start of the second arc. You're like, oh, we're going to do this every time. And I was like, okay, we'll see how that goes. I feel like there was not a lot of cohesion across all of them. And so looking at the season as a whole, I'm like, I kind of can't think of it as a whole thing because it doesn't flow very well.
It kind of feels like 4 separate things that kind of sort of connect.
Little mini seasons. So that's my overall thoughts.
I feel like one of my issues with like the time jumps themselves is I felt like they didn't set up what this character was going to go through for the next year well enough for it to come back in the next bit, for me to see like, okay, this is where they went, this is where they came from. So like the years felt like so jarring because I have no clue what happened the year between, and like so that made all of the character arcs feel so like weird because you had characters going from like point to point, which makes sense given the time that they spent apart, but I didn't get enough of like a lead out and a lead in for it to feel organic.
Do we want to start with pacing? Because that's kind of where we already are.
Yes, I think you kind of hit some of it on the money there, that there isn't cohesion, right? They're not setting you up, and so you're getting told what development happened. You know, like the biggest example I can think of off the top of my head is that there's like this moment where Vel comes in to talk to Bix, I think in arc 3, and she's like, oh yeah, they're thinking of like promoting Cassian to a leader, and he needs to be a leader. And you're like, when did this happen? Like, hey, last time I saw him, he was still with Luthen. He wasn't even in this particular group. And now all of a sudden, not only is he in this group, but he's been there so long that they want to promote him to some sort of leadership position. And I don't even know why. Like, I don't know what he's done to earn that, or why he's even here, other than just not liking Luthen, I guess. Like, the last thing we knew was that he just didn't want to do the Gorman stuff, but, like, it's just like we're getting told about things that have happened in the interim, and it has to happen each time. Because it's like we're starting, like Nat said, it's like we're starting a new mini season each time, so they have to do a Where Are They Now at the beginning of each new arc. And so you're just getting told about
the break with Luthen, like, was so... Like, it didn't... Like, I understood what the break was, but then they cut it off, so I don't really know, like, where Cassian's going from there. Like, if they had, like, him break with Luthen, and then be like, okay, I'm committed to the... I've been kind of, like, torn between here and... I'm so sorry, Yavin.
Yavin? We don't even know if that's where he was going.
Well, that seems to be where he was, right? He has a whole house and everything, whatever set up.
That's where he lands, but, like...
Yeah. But, like, that's what I mean, like...
Were they on Yavin when he left Luthen? We don't know shit.
Exactly. So, like, having him be like, okay, I'm breaking with Luthen, I'm gonna go to Yavin now. Like, that's how it ends. Like, okay, he's gonna spend the next year in Yavin. And then when we're coming in to him being in Yavin, we're like, okay, so he spent the year here, he's been doing really well, like, for the most part, and he's been really instrumental in, like, setting this base up. Great, they're promoting him. That makes way more sense than him being like, I had an argument with Luthen, and then jumping to, okay, I'm fully committed to Yavin now. Like, okay, I didn't even know that was an option until just now.
Yeah, for sure. Like, we don't even know that he had that connection to them. Like, there's so many different character relationships that don't make any sense because they happen off screen in between arcs, you know. And then they only do, like, each arc is like a week at most, probably less. You know, it's like 3 or 4 days, and so it doesn't give the characters a lot of time to move anywhere within the arc. You know, they get a couple of days to basically react to something, and then there's a year that we lose, and it's like, okay, that's one way to do it. Like, I understand why you kind of did it this way, but, like, yeah, no. Like, there's some pros and cons to only giving us a few days at a time out of that year, as opposed to jumping a little bit more each episode, right? Like, it's been a month or something since that argument. It's been another month since he went to Yavin, whatever.
I think that if Yavin had been part of his argument with Luthen, where Luthen was like, hey, you keep going to Yavin, and, like, you keep, like, hanging out with Yavin, like, are you committed to me or are you committed to them? Like, what are you, like, doing here? And, like, having Cassian be like, it's all the rebellion, what are you talking about? And, like, having that be part of their argument, like, part of why Luthen keeps pushing him is because he's frustrated with him, like, spending so much time trying to set up the Yavin base, all that jazz, whatever. That would make way more sense to, like, have... That would make us, like, set up him being at Yavin's way better than what they did.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of different moments where I think there's not connections made. Not even just to the different arcs, but also to Rogue One. You know, like, I mean, this is kind of bouncing to a timeline inconsistency thing, which we were going to do later, but, like, how the fuck do they know about Jin? Like, I'm still wondering. You know, like, it doesn't matter in Rogue One because you can assume they've done some work off on the side, you know, like, in order to know this kind of shit. You know, just kept an eye on Saw over the years, and they knew that Jin was important, so they kept an eye on Jin. But within the context of Rogue One, there's no setup for that, and so you're like, okay, no one even brings her up. So when you get to Rogue One, now I'm wondering, how the fuck did they figure this out? Like they figure out that, like, Saw's got some sort of information, and then they immediately have to turn around and figure out, okay, how do we get into Saw's thing? Oh, well, Jin Erso. But, like, where did you connect that? How did you even know Jin was with it? Or that that he cared about her enough that this would be a reasonable plan to try to get in? You know, who went and got that information? Have you had it for a while and you just have been kind of sitting on it until it was useful? Like, there's just no connection there. And as much as I don't think Jin needed to be a huge part of this, I think that was a connection they could have made, and it feels a little conspicuous that it's not there.
I actually had a note about this because I feel like they could have done that with Will, because Will is with Saw for
100%.
A while. So Will being like, oh, I met Jin, or I heard about Jin, or, like, I knew about Jin.
I think it would have had to be I heard about her, because I think within the timeline she'd be gone already by the time Will is there.
Yeah, or, like, Saw got really drunk and ranted about her one time. Like, anything.
Why isn't the drug-induced thing about Jin? Why is...
Yeah! And then Will being like, hey, like, here's some information to pass on to you guys. And they're like, oh, shit, we should keep an eye on this in case we need to get to Saw somehow, because, like, our relations are, like, clearly breaking down with this guy because he's going crazier and crazier. Like, that would make so much sense. And especially because Will leaves Saw. Like, he eventually goes back to Yavin. And, like, having some kind of breakdown of that relationship after he's super committed because he does a bunch of drugs. Will's arc made no sense. I really like Will, and they didn't do anything with him.
Will's arc was so nonsensical. It's another one of those things where, like, they set something up and then didn't go anywhere with it. I think the drug addiction is an issue that I had. Both introducing it for Saw is really stupid. I honestly did not care for that. Like, because the explanation is that that's what he's doing with the mask in Rogue One is taking more Rito. And it's like, but the whole point of this in Rogue One is to compare him to Anakin, who needs it to live. It's supposed to be an oxygen mask, you know, and he talks about it, like, there's not much of me left, you know, my body is broken, like, that's the whole point. And so changing it to a drug thing just felt like it kind of takes away from that comparison and that parallel.
I thought it was still an oxygen mask, but he, like, fucked up his lungs from doing Rodin. Is it supposed to be Rodin in the mask?
Rito. But yes,
Rito,
I'm Rhydonium, I think is the full name, but
I don't know if they explicitly say it.
They don't say it in this, but like, Tony Gilroy will not shut up, and so I've got a lot of Tony Gilroy's quotes in my head about what this is, and I'm pretty sure they've said in interviews that yes, what's in the mask is drug. It's
stupid.
Not oxygen. It's really dumb.
I don't like that.
And then, of course, there's Bix and Bix's drug addiction that is mentioned.
Makes no sense.
And then goes nowhere.
She's like, I blew up the facility, so I'm cured now. I don't have to do drugs anymore. That's not how drugs work.
Yeah, this is literally, I put this under, like, writing and editing issues because, Sugar, I love the way that you ask it. You say, are there drop storylines or unanswered questions? And that's such a good way to phrase it because unanswered questions can sometimes be good. Like, sometimes if you leave things open-ended, it's like, oh, that's an interesting way to go. Like, I wonder where we go from here. Dropped storylines are so frustrating. Like, and we have so many. We have Tay Kolma, who is just killed by Cinta off screen, we think.
We assume.
He's brought up once, later by Mon Mothma, who says, Luthen, do you remember that my childhood friend who you killed? And that's it. And so, like, Tay Kolma just is killed and Mon moves on and we never hear about him again. That doesn't make any sense. Brasso dies and nobody cares. That doesn't impact your relationship. Cinta dies and nobody brings that up again. Like, Bix is addicted to whatever the substance is, and then suddenly she's not, and we don't see anything. Like, Willman is maybe addicted to something.
Right, presumably.
And then doesn't stay with Saw the way that kind of suggests that he might. He just goes back to Yavin, and It's
not even back to Yavin, because he was full with Luthen at the time, which means that when Cassian made his break, Willman also then made a break.
Yeah.
We don't really know how the complexities of that worked out.
But not really, because he keeps the radio. Like, it's very, like... Okay, so at this point, like, Luthen's barely working with Mon and Bale, so, like, what is he doing? Like, yes, he's getting information, but, like...
Where's that information going?
Yeah, he's no longer, like, a trusted source.
What agents does he have left?
Yeah. Like, what... Like, I understand why he's, like, still embedded, right? Because he's still looking for this answer. But what does he feel that his place in the rebellion is at this point? Because the rebellion's mostly on Yavin.
Yeah, once the Rebel Alliance is more established.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, once the Rebel Alliance is more established, but also I think, like, once they leave Chopper Base, vis-a-vis Rebels, they move into Yavin.
Yeah, and, like, Bale and Luthen are the only ones left, as far as we know, on Coruscant after Mon leaves, but they don't work together? Why? Like, it's so weird that Bale doesn't trust Luthen. It's so weird. It doesn't make any sense.
They don't like each other because Bale's an asshole.
We'll get to Bale.
We'll get to Bale.
The setup of this season being we're going to cover all, like, we're going to jump so that we can cover all of the years leading up to Rogue One. And, like, some of the storylines felt like they were trying to tie things up really nicely with a really nice bow. And then other things they just didn't, and I don't know if that is because they ran out of time, but, like, it was really frustrating to go at the end of one arc, jump a single year. And so some of the, like, character inconsistencies, I'm like, it makes sense that Cassian is questioning what his place is in the rebellion again, because this is a couple of days a year later. It makes sense to have that every so often, every single year. But because they didn't do a great job pulling everything through and having, like, a consistent storyline throughout, that doesn't feel as excusable to me. Because we show up a year later and they don't tell us what happened in the past year. And some pretty important shit is happening. And we just don't get to see it, and that made me sad. I wanted to see that.
I also found the Cassian thing frustrating because I felt like this was his like only problem that he was trying to solve, when I felt like he solved it in season 1. He's already committed to the rebellion. Like, why does he keep having to recommit to the rebellion every single year? Is he having like anniversary issues? Like, what's going on with that? It didn't make sense to me. And especially when I feel like in Rogue One, he was the most committed person there. And I felt like, season 1, Cassian having this issue makes perfect sense. That's great. Totally. I love seeing him commit. But by season 2, that should not be his issue anymore. His issue should be that his friends are not as committed as he is.
Yeah, or, like, I think what I want to see was, like, yes, he's committed now to the cause. But I want to see him go from just, like, yes, like, my life sucks, I gotta do this, to, like, this is me, this is who I am now. Like, there's nothing left for me. Just, like...
This is my identity now.
Yeah, just kind of giving little pieces of himself each time until he hits the point where, like, he cannot conceive of leaving, because that's the crux of Rogue One Cassian to me, is that, like, people say, like, oh, you know, he was a troublemaker in Rogue One. I'm like, he's not, though. Like, the whole point of him not killing Galen is that this is super out of character for this man. You know, that this man actually does kind of, you know, generally obey orders. You know, you hit the moment where he decides to go get the volunteers for Jyn, right? And, like, the thing he says is his motivation is, like, we've all done shitty things that make it difficult to sleep at night, but the one thing I'd never be able to forgive myself for is quitting early. You know, not continuing to fight as long as I possibly could. Because that's where the rebellion's at. Like, he kind of knows, he clearly is kind of aware that, like, when Jyn brings this information to the rebellion, that not only are they not going to believe her about the weakness, but, because, like, they have to believe her about the Death Star, like, they have very visible proof of that from Jedha, but that report about what happened on Jedha is going to freak the rebellion out enough to potentially break it apart. He knows that that's where this is heading, and he's like, I'm not done. I refused. I can't. Like, I physically cannot. You know, that's the one thing he couldn't forgive himself for, and that's where I needed Cassian to get to. You know, it's not just, yeah, sure, I'm ready to fight, because what else is there? To, like, I'll never forgive myself if I stop fighting now, because this is everything that is who I am. And, like, I don't think we got there. And so, and having him continue to question whether he even wants to be there or not, to the point that he is 100% ready to leave. Like, that's not even a question anymore in Arc 3.
No, like, he's like, let's leave, Bix. Let's, like, we're so late in the game for you to be willing to leave right now.
Yes, and he's saying it to multiple people. It's not even just, like, a whim. Like, he's thought about it and prepared for it, and he is talking to people about it. He talks to Clea about it. And I think he talks to Vel about it or something. Or...
Like, going from that to a year later being like, some of us lived the rebellion, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it's too late for him to be, like, not just questioning it, but prepared to walk out. And then the motivation that they give him for why he stays stinks major ass. Like...
Fucking sucks.
Like, I don't understand.
What the fuck is the Bix baby? Why is there a Bix baby?
It's not the baby, because he doesn't know shit about the baby. It's just Bix dumping him.
The whole Bix thing.
Like, Bix just goes, peace out, bitch. Like, an alternative medicine woman told me that you're a special messenger, and so I'm gonna leave, and that's definitely gonna keep you fighting in this rebellion. I was like, what motivation does he have to stay when his girlfriend just dumped him for it? Like...
And it didn't make any I like Bix so much. They didn't give her shit to do this season. She didn't get to do anything.
She got to do a couple things, and then they wrecked it at the end. I do. Yeah. I like that she got to live. That was kind of nice.
Yes.
They literally turned her into, like, a Padme who lived. Like, she went from, like, a badass to, like, a pregnant mom in a field.
Well, she's not pregnant in the field. She has her baby.
Whatever. Yeah. No shade to young mothers in fields. They do valuable work. Obviously.
Specifically in fields. If you're not in a field, fuck you, though.
I think that I understand their purpose with showing Bix. I get that it, like...
It's like hope, whatever. Yeah.
Right. It's like hope or whatever.
It's
but
so
like,
on those, but I feel like you didn't need it. Like, there is hope, and it's in Rogue One at the end.
The new hope is Leia and Luke! I'm so sorry, it's not the fucking Bix baby, it's Leia and Luke! Stop with your OCs!
Yeah. It's the knowledge that it means something. You know, it's knowing that it's not necessarily specifically Leia and Luke, but that the rebellion continues and wins.
I swear to
It's
God.
the knowledge that this sacrifice means something, ultimately, even if they don't get to see it.
If we get the Rey movie and there's a fucking character who's like older than Ben Solo and it's like, oh yeah, my mom was like in the rebellion a long time ago, I'm gonna scream.
Oh my God.
I'm gonna freak out.
Also, the Rey movie's been put on the shelf.
Shocking! See my surprised face? Well, okay, the listeners can't see my surprised face, but trust me, it was really realistic.
It was really surprised. Yeah.
Yeah. Faye was really surprised.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Andor.
Anyway, Andor season 2.
So we have some issues with Biggs. But yes, I liked that she lived.
I like that she lived. I liked that she got to kill her attempted rapist.
Yes.
Fucking incredible.
That.
Very devastating that she went from that to just be like, because clearly she can handle her shit. And then she's just like traumatized and can't handle anything. And then she kills this person who's haunting her nightmares and she's fine? Actually?
Yeah, it's the guy who tortured her from last season.
I did enjoy that. I liked her killing him. That was cool.
I loved her killing him. I wish
beautiful.
that she had got to do other things after that.
Yeah.
But
the thing I didn't like about her killing him is that just then, it's like that's a magical cure-all.
right.
Yeah.
Right?
Didn't enjoy
it's
that.
like, I don't mind that she kills him, but then it's like her trauma just goes away like it never happened. The addiction goes away like it never happened. And then she spends the next 2 arcs being nothing but a housewife.
If she had killed him and been like, that was the catalyst for me, like, deciding to fix myself and, like, work on my addiction and I'm doing better now, but I'm not 100% there. Like, I'm still, like, working on it. That would have been great. I would have really enjoyed that. That's not what they did. They were like, yep, this fixed her perfectly.
Or like that's why she cares about the Force Healer, right?
Yes.
Like she knows she's not okay, and so she's been seeing the Force Healer, and she
Mhm.
wants that could have been the connection, but she's just like, oh yeah, that lady over there, she's a Force Healer. Maybe you should talk to her. And he's like, my mom hated Force Healers.
can I talk about the Force Healer for a second?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Here's the thing. Apparently, I had to look it up. I know that Force healing is a thing that happens in the sequels. I thought it was a sequels thing. Apparently, it's not. It's been a Star Wars thing, like in the whatever extended universe. Like that's been a thing.
Yeah.
Sure.
No.
They imply that Marva was scammed by a Force healer previously. Here's the thing. This scene felt like it took 7 million years. It felt so long. I was so angry the entire time I rewatched it today. It's only 5 minutes, which is crazy to me.
5 minutes is a pretty long scene.
Bix is there, and Bix says they wouldn't be faking something if it never worked, which is not true, Bix. Have you heard of pseudoscience? Like, have you heard of the essential oil multi-level marketing schemes? People fake shit all of the fucking time. I don't understand why Bix is so on board with this. Force healing either, is a thing or isn't. You should be able to prove whether or not this works. It's magic. The Force is magic. It either heals you or it doesn't. You can verify whether or not that works. And Cassian just doesn't believe in it, but it heals him anyway because they have some special bond through the Force, which is so frustrating because the reason that I love Cassian as a character so much is because he's not particularly special. He doesn't have any special Force powers. He's not a hero in the sense of, he's a chosen one. He's just a person who's really good at his job, and he makes a choice in Rogue One to be the person to get shit done. That's why he's a good character. And we take that away and say, actually, he is a chosen one. Actually, the Force knows that he's super special, which is fine, whatever. But then, at the very end, when they're doing their whole, lead up to him getting on the ship to go to the planet to kill the whatever guy to start Rogue One, we spent...
Wait. Sorry. He's not going there to kill him.
Well, but then that's what he does there.
I was like, wait, he's not intending murder here. Sorry, you can keep going, but I was like, let's not... That was a little bit of a character assassination there. But...
Sorry, Cassian.
Sorry.
We spend 15 seconds on him looking at the Force healer.
And giving her, a nod.
I went through, I did math. We have 5 seconds on Will. We have 12 on Mon and Vel. We have 24 seconds on Perrin with his, daughter's husband's mother.
His daughter's mother-in-law, yes.
Right, yes.
Is maybe the slightly easier way to say that.
Whatever. We spend 9 seconds on Clea. We have 7 on Dedra. We go back to Clea for 15. We go back to Dedra for 8. And then we spend 15 seconds on the Force healer. 13 on Saw, 10 on Krennic and the Death Star. Why is the Force Healer getting more time than the fucking Death Star? She's not that important. She shouldn't be there. I'm so angry. I'm taking it down. We're down to like 3 and 7.5 hugs because I fucking hated the Force Healer so much. It almost ruined the season for me.
I really hated how she described the whole, like, how the Force moves around him and shit, too. Like, I don't really mind her being like, oh, I wouldn't have really minded her being like, oh, the Force is telling me that he's going to play an important role in, like, upcoming events. But the way she described it as, like, he interacts with the Force differently because he's, like, super special, I hated that. I hated that. That was stupid. It didn't make any sense. It's not consistent with any of the... Okay, I know that the lore in Star Wars is famously inconsistent. That didn't make any sense. Also, side note, Force healing in Legends is so fucking different. Like, it's so fucking different. It doesn't... It's... Like, it's not, like, a healing potion that she's, like, doing with her mind. Like, Force healing in Legends is more like, I'm going to start the healing process in motion for you, and I can speed it up. I can't put my hand on you and fix your arm.
Oh.
Does that make sense? Like, you can put somebody in, like, a healing coma, and, like, they'll get better faster. But, like, you can't put your hand on them and fix their stab wound. That's not how it works.
Interesting.
Because that doesn't make any sense, fucking sequels.
It's like, if you wanted to do it, that's fine. But the second, I love most of the acting for this season. I don't know what it was about the Force Healer, but she showed up and I said, I don't trust this woman.
She had a very untrustworthy face. I didn't like her face.
It was really, I wish that wasn't the case, but, like, Bix is there and is so on board and is not listening to Cassian say that he doesn't want to see this person, and then it works on Cassian, but he still doesn't believe in Force healing, which doesn't make sense, and it just,
that also pissed me off, because consent is very important, especially in medical cases.
It seemed out of character for Bix to just, like, pull him in there, and it felt like such an unnecessary thing to do, and it just... like, seemingly we spent those 5 minutes so that he could look at her at the end, so that she wouldn't, like, someone would recognize he's gonna go do an important thing. And I'm like, we're watching this because we saw Rogue One. The viewers know that he's about to go do an important thing. You don't need to do this. I'm done. Thank you for listening.
Yes. I'm so glad you have a lot to say. Like, I don't think I hated that one the way you did. Like, I didn't love it. But I think she does come off as, like, an alternative medicine woman, which might be why you felt like she wasn't giving the same trustworthy vibe as, like, good Force users tend to in Star Wars.
Right.
Is because it did have that sense of, like, alternative medicine, like essential oil salesman, snake oil salesman a little bit. At least because that's how Cassian perceives it. You know, it does definitely have the sense of, like, a tarot card reader, you know, going to see a psychic kind of thing. Like, does she really have powers? Maybe. Unclear. You know, she senses something, clearly. Was she once a Jedi? We'll never know. They don't call her that. They just call her a Force healer. Whatever. It's, like, super unclear as to what she is, and that's fine, but I don't know that it added anything to me for either character. And I didn't love I think the thing I didn't like about it mostly was the glorification of Cassian and how that led to Bix's choice being all about him, right? That, like, it would have been one thing for me if she'd been like, you know, I'm done with this rebellion thing. Like, I can't, you know, I don't like it. And, you know, maybe she realizes she's pregnant. She's like, this just isn't where I want to raise a family. And I don't want to get rid of it. Like, I wanted a normal life and I want to fight, but, like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm outie. Versus, like, well, Cassian is super special and he's got the most important thing possible to do, and if he leaves for me, then it's my fault. And so the way I fight in the rebellion is to dump my boyfriend so that he can go be super special without me.
I mean, if she'd been like, I don't want to make him choose between me and the rebellion, but I can't stay, that would have been fine. If she'd been like, I love you, but, like, the rebellion needs you, and, like, I'm not going to make you choose, so I'm choosing for you, that would have been fine. But, like, the way she's like, oh, you would leave with me if I let you, and, like, you would choose, you would just leave the rebellion, and I can't let you do that. I can't let you make your own fucking choice. That's crazy. He's a person.
Yeah, I think I wanted it to be about her, too. Like, I wanted her choice to be like, I don't want to stay.
Yeah.
This isn't my choice to make. If you want to come with me, great. If not, eh. Like, or even the opposite, right? Like, I would have adored, like, I think people are pointing out the parallels between the conversation between Bix and Cassian and Marva and Cassian from season 1. Yeah. And I was like, I would have loved that, but swap those fucking roles in order to show growth on both fucking characters, where all of a sudden you've got Bix saying, come with me, like, this thing is killing you, we can still have a normal life, there must still be a quiet place somewhere, and Cassian going like, no, actually, like, this is who I am now. This is the choice I'm making. I'm staying. I can't actually go with you. And, you know, having a parallel between the, like, you know, going like, you know, I'll never have peace. I'll just be worried about you all the time. And, you know, well, that's just love. Nothing you can do about that, you know, kind of thing. And because Cassian says, like, I don't understand. And I would have loved him to have, like, a moment where he goes, like, I do understand now. I get it. I understand what Marva wants, and I get what you want, because I've been where you are too with Bix. You know, if Bix wants to leave, going like, I've done that, I've been there, so I get it. Leave if you want to, but I have to stay, to show growth on both ends. And that's kind of where I wish they would have hit, where it's like a choice for both of them, and instead, like, she's making a choice because she thinks Cassian has a super special destiny and he's more important than she is, and he's not making a choice at all. And he's our main character, and this is a pivotal choice for him. And that's frustrating. And while I'm on pivotal choices that don't get to be real choices, I'm going to hit on Mon Mothma while we're here. So, Mon Mothma. The thing with Mon Mothma for me is that the pivotal choice for Mon Mothma is when she chooses to leave to join the rebellion, like, fully. And season 1 has set that up to be a choice between the rebellion and her family. And then you reach that choice, and her family is A, nowhere to be found, and B, doesn't even get mentioned. Like, it's just not an issue.
Literally, she's like, I'm going to do this speech, and at no point does she be like, I should see if my husband and child want to get off the planet. Like, she's so concerned about her own evacuation. Hello? Are they just not there right now? Like, what's going on?
I really assume that they're not there.
Except,
like,
Perrin clearly is in the epilogue, and so...
Well, yeah, but that's like...
Yeah, but, like, are they separated? Because he's having this affair? Like, there's some... I picked up on some implications, I don't know if they were intentional, that, like, maybe their arranged marriage, like, part of that is that Perrin kind of does whatever he wants, and that's fine. Yeah. We probably don't cut back to Lita, right? Is her name?
No. Lita, yeah. We never see Lita in the epilogue. I have feelings on that, too.
Right, which pisses me off, and I'm like, the best explanation is that she's, like, a kid, and we haven't really... Like, she hasn't really grown for 5 years, but, like, listen.
Oh, that she should look older, but the actress won't.
They could just put her hair up. Like,
they could put her hair up. They could do makeup. They could do literally anything about it. They could do her, like, from behind, like, very clearly Lita, but we don't see her face. But no, Mon has just, like, abandoned her family, and that's fine. I mean,
they could have had a line where she was like, thank goodness my family is, like, off on holiday right now, or, like, literally anything.
Or Bale saying, like, you know, like, I'll make sure your family is protected. Something. Yeah, but also, it was like, I want it to be a choice, you know, not just like, oh, I gotta think about it, but, like, it's not just that she's leaving them behind, but that she might never come back. If she's leaving, the chances that she dies are pretty high now. Yeah. You know, she's public enemy number 5, maybe.
I mean, you could even have, like, her assistant be like, hey, what about your family? And her being like, I've already made my choice. I've already decided. Like, I wouldn't mind that, of her, like, coming to the realization that, like, this isn't a choice for her anymore. She's already decided. That would be great, but, like, you still need that moment.
Yeah, and that didn't happen. There's all these weird scenes with Bale, and I'll get to Bale in a second, because I don't think Bale should have been in this. I love Bail Organa so much. He never should have been anywhere near this show in so many ways. But, like, there's all these weird scenes with Bale where all of a sudden Mon Mothma's talking to Bale about the rebellion, and it's like, when did that happen? Like all these characters just started working with Bale in between arcs, and it's like, at no point did we ever even know that they knew the other person was rebelling before now, and now they're working with each other, and she's, like, revealing all of her secrets and her worries, and they're like, oh yeah, I'll take care of you, I got my guys on it, and it's like, since when has this been a thing? And, like, the only thing anyone, and so this is where I get to, like, why the fuck did Gorman matter? Like, why was Gorman the breaking point? Like, Mon Mothma has, in this version of the story, in Andor, she already knows the Empire's evil. Gorman does not change that for her, right? Like, she's already actively rebelling. She's already at the point where she's selling her own daughter out to keep funding the rebellion. Like, why is Gorman a breaking point? And that I don't think adequately gets explained. Like, I've had people tell me, like, well, it's because it's rich and influential. I'm like, no, that's why it matters to the galaxy. Yeah. Like, that's why it's a breaking point for the galaxy, but not for Mon. Mon already knows this. She knows the Empire commits atrocities.
I think because it's open, and it's, from my perspective, was that Gorman was a breaking point in that this was when the Empire had hit what she felt the Empire had hit the point of no return. She could no longer fix this from the inside. There was no longer any way that the Senate was going back to what they were before. There was no way to fix it.
But that's not made clear, ever. And again, she's already willing to sell her daughter for this. Like, she's already funding a rebellion whose active goal is to take out the Empire, which means she already has to believe that it's beyond return.
But that's not their goal. Their goal is to return the Republic. That's their goal. Their goal is, like...
Which is to... Yeah, but that involves burning down the Empire.
Not necessarily. Like, yes, that is eventually their goal. But initially, like, that morphs into their goal. But initially, she's always hoping that they can just, like, get rid of Palpatine and, like, put things back the way they're supposed to be. And, like that's... What is the, like, full name of the delegation? Like...
The Alliance to Restore...
Yeah, the Alliance to Restore the... Like, that's their whole thing. It's to restore the Republic. But it's not to burn the Empire down, it's to restore the Republic. And so, like, Gorman is like, oh, the Empire is so willing, they will wipe out any of us. And they don't care. They don't care anymore. There's no way we can fix this. And, like, that's her, like, final, like, point of, like, I can't fix this from the inside anymore.
The thing with that is that you hit a point of, like, okay, again, why Gorman? Like, you've already got Kashyyyk getting fully fucked up, and the Wookiees getting enslaved. You've got the Jedi have already been genocided super publicly. You've already got the Lasat being genocided. We don't really know how public that was, but it's happened. And it seems unlikely that Mon doesn't know about any of these, so why is Gorman different? And the only thing you can come to about why they're different is, ooh, they are rich and influential. Which then brings you to, why the fuck is Mon a racist, elitist bitch? And I don't think that that's what the thing is going for, which means that can't be why Gorman matters.
It's not that they're rich and influential. It's that they are rich, influential, white, and human. And those are things that the Empire, up to this point, has made exceptions for. And the fact that they are no longer willing to make exceptions because they want something there means that there is no line they're not willing to cross anymore.
And that's why it matters to the galaxy, but that can't be why it matters to Mon Mothma. Because she already cares about people being hurt. She isn't an asshole who's racist and elitist.
Alternatively, Mon's whole speech is because, like, the focus of her speech in the Senate is, like, basically, we are watching misinformation happen in real time right now. And everyone here is lying to themselves. And that feels to me like her leaving the Senate does not feel like a personal choice that she's making about, like, joining the rebellion. She's already in the rebellion. That feels like a public statement to the Senate that she is in the rebellion now. And that's why she leaves.
Yes, that's why she leaves. It's not, but she does say earlier, like, I can't do this anymore. I can't keep going like this, which means Gorman matters to her personally.
I think it's the Senate losing, like, it feels to me like she's like, I can't be a part of the Senate anymore in good conscience because all of these people are on board with this misinformation and genocide.
Which is already true, though. Like, and she has to know that that's already true. So, again, she already knows that this is true and already doesn't like it.
But every other time they did it, they made excuses, right? Like, Kashyyyk's government was replaced, or, like, they have new representation, or, like, whatever. This one, they're openly arresting the senator. They're not even hiding it. They're not even pretending to let the Senate have any say in it. Like, at this point, there's, like, literally nothing no power the Senate has left, and no one is even willing to say anything. Whereas, like, before, there were excuses that could be made, like, believable ones, to, like, prevent public outcry, but now they don't even care.
Yes, but, like, again, like, she's already willing to sell her daughter for this. She knows this is true. This isn't really a big deal. But, like, I think this is why it matters to me. Like, if you go with just, like, oh, yeah, like, it's just, like, well, this is slightly worse than they've done before, then it's, like, what was the point, then, of Mon making a choice between her family and the rebellion if it's just a political choice? I think there's a lot of connections that didn't get made here, and that bothers me. So the thing with Bail shouldn't have been in this. Bail, for the same reason that I think the Jedi obviously aren't in this, and the Sith aren't in this, which is that Bail is part of Star Wars' big cosmic mythos, where there is a very clear evil and a very clear good. And Bail has always been this symbolic image of purity and perfection in many ways. You know, in Rogue One, and I could not get over this when I decided to watch Rogue One immediately afterwards. He walks in, the very first moment that Bail walks into frame, they play the Force theme. Like I lifted into the high heavens at that. Because I was like, oh, Rogue One respects my man. Mm-hmm. But like... As they should, but it kind of tells you that, like, Bail is a part of a bigger mythos that, like, the other characters of Rogue One and all of the characters, basically, in Andor are not a part of. And so Bail can't exist in the shades of gray that Andor does. And so I think they put him in there, and he got kind of twisted in there. You know, like Faye was saying, like, why does Bail not trust Luthen at all? Like, why don't they even seem to know each other or ever work together at all? It makes no sense for Bail. You know, it doesn't make any sense that Cassian doesn't like Bail for some reason. Like, why is he working for him then? The last time he worked for a guy he didn't like, he left. So why is he here if he doesn't like or trust Bail? Like, it does not make sense. Bail does not work in that space. And I love Bail. I love him to pieces. He doesn't fit in this story. He never should have been in here.
I didn't really mind the, like, little cameo that they gave him. Like, sure, he's at a party. Like, Mon knows him.
Yeah, that's fine.
That's great. But then, like, and I didn't hate him, like, being included in, like, the plan to, like, get Mon out of there, even though it didn't really make a ton of sense. But I guess they had to do it for, like, the continuity of, like, Rebels or something.
You don't, though. You don't, because you don't really know exactly how she gets there. That's the whole thing, is that, like, in Rebels, like, the Rebels crew is just told... like, oh, there's another crew coming and they just need, like, some extra gas or something. We just need you to, like, give them some gas. And then shit happens and, you know, shenanigans ensue and the Rebels crew ends up kind of embroiled in the whole thing.
But you very much didn't really need him there. You could have just been like, okay, Luthen could have just been like, hey, I need you to deliver him to this ship. And Bail's crew is going to take it from there. You don't even need him to be there.
Yes, exactly. Like, I think that's how I would have preferred it, is, like, there's another crew who's going to take her the rest of the way. There's a whole plan in place. Cassian just needs to go get her, and there's, like, a connection between him and Bail where they figured this out or whatever. I think that would have been better.
I'm just going to point out that the moments where Bail doesn't fit is also where his costume doesn't fit. Because why did they put him in that cloak? It looks so bad. I'm so sorry. My beautiful man, my man Jimmy Schmidt, is a gorgeous man. He's huge. He's built like a brick shit house. He looks amazing. I love him. I think he's very attractive. This guy, also lovely, skinny. He's a little man. He's little.
A bit of a slender. Benjamin Bratt is very slender.
Very lovely. Gorgeous. Very different body types. And Jimmy Schmidt can pull off a big cloak with a lot of stuff going on the chest. It looks really good on him. He really pulls it off. When they put that cloak on Benjamin Pratt, he looks like he's wearing a Barbie doll cloak. That's what he looks like he's wearing. It's so, like, narrow and weird, and because it's supposed to be the same cloak. It looks completely wrong on him. It makes no sense. Put him in a different cloak. It's fine. I know. He's a senator. He can have multiple cloaks. Put a different cloak on him. He makes... Why? He looks like a child playing dress up. He looks so ill-fitting in this space right now, and it matches up with the fact that his character is ill-fitting in this space right now, I guess, but... Drives me crazy. The costuming department is so fucking good. For every other costume the rest of the season, why did they do that? That was stupid.
Yeah.
They were like, you know what? They filmed that scene with a different shirt, and the director was like, you know what? I actually really want the continuity to match up with the movie, so can you give him the same cloak? And the costuming department was like, what? No, that's terrible. It won't work on him. And they're like, please, do it. And they're like, I guess. And they whipped it up in 5 minutes, and that's what it looked like. Because it's terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Bail shouldn't have been in here. Benjamin Bratt did the best he could. It didn't work out.
He's a great actor. He did a great job.
I think he did a good job with what he was given.
I think he did a fine. I think it never felt like my Bail.
Right.
Like, I think if I had seen this man as Bail first, I would have been like, sure, yeah, this is Bail. I have no issues with this. But I have been living with Jimmy Smits.
Yeah.
For a couple decades now.
And Jimmy Schmidt just brings this, like, level of, like, solid kindness to the character. Like, you just see him and you're like, that's a guy who is 100% reliable. Not that Brenton Pratt doesn't have, like, that kind of energy, for sure, but, like, Jimmy Schmidt just has it down so well.
It's hard when you have a character, like, if he had just been in, like, one, like, Mon, if they had recast Mon in Andor, that would have been fine, because she's in Rogue One and cut from the prequels. She's not a huge character, but Bale has shown up multiple times as the same actor, and it's much harder to...
And recently, yeah.
Yeah,
in both Kenobi and Rogue One.
Right, and so it's hard to adjust to a new person, especially when he doesn't play like a super, like, as you're saying, Sugar. Like, he could have been cut. He didn't need to be there.
He didn't need to be there. I think, I will say, and this is obviously nobody's fault, but I will say I think a large part of why this didn't feel like Bail Organa to me is because he doesn't have the accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jimmy Smits has an accent, and that is, like, so, like...
We have a really specific idea of who Bale is, and then you bring in this new character, and you're like, "This is Bale," and you're like,
okay. I was like, he plays a wonderful character, but this isn't my Bail Organa. He will probably be somebody's Bail Organa. He's not mine. So he was doing a perfectly fine job. It just, I could not connect him to Bail Organa in my head, and that was too bad. Obviously, characters get retconned all the time and get played by multiple actors. It's not that big a deal. But it just, that was the thing that was hard. And it's nobody's fault. That's not like a critique. It just was like, it is what it is. I appreciate that they kept it, obviously, with a Latino actor, but,
I mean, it's better than they did for Breha, so.
Oh, Brea. Yes. To be fair, like, the actress who they brought in to play Brea for the first one doesn't even have a speaking role. But yes, they didn't get someone who even looked like her at all.
No, not even slightly. I mean, she has the same color hair. I'm like...
Well, that's all you need.
Yeah, that's all you need. The whole Filipino thing, that's not necessary.
Yeah, it's not important. It's not like, whatever. Anyways.
So, the last thing I think... I want to hit one last thing before we move on from the critiques, and that is the Cinta problem.
Yes! Let's talk about the Cinta problem, because what did they do to my girl... Okay, sorry, really quickly, they took her from this show, right? And they put her in Doctor Who. They say it's not for scheduling conflicts. Probably was, let's be honest. And then, you know what they do to her in Doctor Who, the end of the season where she's done her last episode? They give her a baby. They rewrite her timeline to give her a baby she never fucking wanted. And that's how her story ends, is she's at home with a 2-year-old who she never wanted. It pisses me the fuck off that they did that to my girl, because I love her. I love that actress. And they did that to her after killing off her wonderful character in this season. I
know, this could have been the summer of Varada Sethu, and it didn't end up that way. Poor Varada got screwed over twice.
Twice! That's crazy!
In 2 separate sci-fi shows. But yes, okay, so the thing with Cinta. So, I don't know if either of you got to see the interview that Gilroy did after this and his explanation as to why he killed her off. The explanation as to why he killed off Cinta is that he really, really likes the actress for Vel, Faye Marcy, and wanted to give her more to do, and so he killed off Cinta to kind of add some baggage to Vel.
Do you know what's funny about that? Is that after Cinta dies, Vel doesn't get fucking shit to do. She doesn't do anything.
Yeah. What a strange thing to say when you didn't do that with that character. I was like, I mean, Vel is still there because she has plot armor because she's Mon's cousin, I guess.
Which is exactly why it should have been Vel.
Vel should have died. Vel 100% should have died.
I think it would have been, because then you could have had it impact Mon, and then Vel's death could have been part of what causes Mon to leave and join the rebellion. Connective tissue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because they had that whole scene with her and Luthen where she's like, oh, is Vel safe? Is she okay? And he's like, why do you ask? Are you worried? Yeah, and she goes like, because I care about her.
Yeah.
She's my cousin. I care about her. I love her. Like, I just want you to tell her that I love her. And so, like, there could have been a really easy connective tissue there. And then Cinta gets to be more, obviously.
That would also help splinter Mon's relationship with Luthen. Because Luthen got Vel killed.
Yeah.
Yep.
Damn.
Wow. We should write Star Wars.
But yeah, so that was like the big thing. But obviously this does, like, I've seen people argue back and forth about whether this hits on Barrier Days. I would argue it does, especially with the explanation about just doing it for the white woman's sake. There's obviously the racism involved in making it Cinta and not Vel. But you know, I personally felt like it did hit on barrier gaze. I know there are people who feel like it's not because this is the show where everybody dies. But to be fair, not everybody died.
There's also the whole, like,
So,
Vel is the softer, the sweeter, the gentler one. Well, she's the white woman. And Cinta's, like, the more vicious one, and she's the woman of color. Like, there's a lot of that going on there, and then to kill off Cinta before she, like, really gets to, like, develop and grow, and, like, we get to see any kind of, like, growth or arc from her, is crazy.
and, like, there's all this weird shit that happened off screen for Cinta. There's that whole thing about, like, I, like, was out for a year for some sort of injury, I guess, or something. Like, I wasn't in a good way, and so I was just out for a year. And now I'm totally with you, Vel. Like, I love you, and we're gonna kiss now. And then she immediately gets killed by a stray bullet, and it's kind of like, wow, where have we seen that before? You know, I feel like there's been a lesbian character who got killed by a stray bullet, and it made a lot of waves in a negative way for that particular show. So, you know,
I think that I have very separate feelings about it in story versus, like, in real life, because I think in story, like, that at the time when I watched it, and I'm just one queer person, I'm not speaking for the whole community, that did not feel like barrier gaze to me, because I was like, yeah, but Brasso also died. Like, people are dying here. That is where the stakes are. But we do not have enough queer characters of color in Star Wars to be able to treat them the same.
Queer characters in general.
In general, yes, but, like, if there were more of them, then, like, sure, she could have died and that wouldn't have meant anything, but that's not the universe that I live in right now.
I'm just saying, Brasso should have gotten a boyfriend. I'm just gonna say it. Brasso should have had a boyfriend. Why did he have a girlfriend?
I liked his partner.
I did.
I think she was cute.
She could have been a man.
Yeah, I think it was the build-up for me. It was, like, Cinta coming back, going, like, oh yeah, I'm totally in this now. And then they, like, finally solidified that, like, yes, these are two queer characters with a kiss, and then, like, 10 minutes later, she's dead. That, I think, was what made it feel barrier gazy to me.
Yeah.
Was that progression of events and the fact that her death kind of doesn't matter. It doesn't go anywhere. It's a stray bullet from these two dudes who are, like, effectively on the same side.
Yeah.
You know? And it's just a stray bullet that happens to go through her heart. You know? And there's just... And, you know, it's like, did this mean anything to anybody? Because, like, you could have just as easily, you know, said the same thing by having it hit one of the other Gorman rebels. You know? As opposed to Cinta. You know, and I think that's where it felt a little barrier gaze-ish to me.
I didn't hate the whole, like, this is a horrible fit tragedy that happened because of, like, leftist infighting, whatever, right? Like, I didn't hate that, like, these people are not ready for this rebellion because they're not willing to, like, obey orders. They're not ready to be soldiers. Like, I didn't hate that. That was fine. But it's the fact that it killed Cinta specifically that pissed me off. Like, she didn't get to do anything. She's just there, like fucking Gilroy says, she's just there to die. She's just there to die and make Vel sad. That really upset me because I really liked her character. I felt like she was really interesting. She had a lot of stuff going for her, and, like, I wanted to know more about her.
And the relationship had stuff, like, you know, was interesting.
Yeah, they're so complicated.
And, yeah, and they removed a lot of that by just having Cinta go, like, oh, yeah, like, I'm here now, and I'm in it. Like, I've had a complete 180 change of heart off screen. You know, and the last thing we saw her doing was potentially going off to assassinate a guy, and we don't have any idea what happened there.
I know. Give me the scene of her killing that guy in cold blood, actually. Give me that scene. I want her to stab him in the face for fun.
Yeah, so it's just, I think that's what made it feel a little more barrier gaze. Like, I understand the argument of, like, this is a show where people die, and it is trying to, like, showcase that people do die, and they can even die in stupid ways. And I get that, but I think the choice of making it Cinta and the way they led up to it being Cinta is what gave it that feeling, and not just the fact that she died. I think if they wanted it to be Cinta who died, there were ways to do it in that wouldn't have had that kind of undertone, that kind of feeling. And that was the issue that I had with it.
Imagine the complicated relationship we could have had between Cinta and Mon, and, like,
yeah.
Ooh, like, these are two characters who, like, have to work together, but, like, Mon is like, you were there when my cousin died. I loved her so much. Instead of being like, well, I loved her too. Like, it was a horrible accident. And, like, you know, there's so many layers of complexity that could have been there. And, like,
Also, imagine the layers of complexity with with Mon Mothma and Gorman if she knows that Vel died helping the Gormans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think more than Cinta, because Cinta's just kind of there. She happens to be there. But it's a Gorman who kills Vel in that scenario. And it's Vel being there trying to help them that gets her killed. And I can imagine there's some complexity there then about, like, Mon Mothma's willingness to help the Gormans, knowing that one of them accidentally killed Vel.
I mean, maybe Disney's really hoping to do, like, a spin-off with some of these characters. I don't know. I don't want it, I'm just saying.
The other thing about, like, the circumstances of Cinta's death are, like, it is, like, it hits so hard and it's so sad because, like, there was no reason for her to die. They did not follow orders. There should not have been a gun. Like, they were explicitly not supposed to have that. It was a completely unnecessary death because of infighting. But we spent a really long time on Yavin with the other rebels that were having a lot of infighting. And so we're setting up that theme and then it just, like, we continue it and then it doesn't really go anywhere.
Yeah.
And then we get to Yavin at the end and it's like, and now Cassian is the only one who's disagreeing with the people here because he wants to go do this thing and they don't want him to do that. And I just don't, I was excited about that because I thought that they were, like, setting it up for us to see the rebellion come together. And then at the end, they're like, Luthen brought us all together. And I'm like, that's not at all what I just saw, though, for the past season. Mm-hmm. We did not connect, you put the dots out there, we did not connect them, besties.
Mm-hmm. They were not connected.
We can spend a short amount of time on themes. I'll be just very quick. I liked how often we returned to the theme of sacrifice. That was very much set up in the first season. I also thought it was really interesting that we saw sacrifices of, like, that people were making for other characters. We've already talked about how we have issues with Bix leaving. That is kind of, she is deciding there that Cassian is going to stay with the rebellion. That's a poor way to do it, I think. Luthen killing Lonnie, on the other hand, is really interesting because Lonnie joining the, like, Lonnie's like, you promised that you were going to get my family out. And it's very clear Luthen had no intention of doing that at any point. Lonnie was always going to die. Luthen is constantly making sacrifices for other people in the rebellion because he is deciding how the rebellion is going to go. He's deciding that Tay Kolma is too much of a risk. He has to die. And he's the one pulling the trigger there. And he's the one pulling the trigger with Lonnie. And that's really interesting to me because it's much more complicated than, like Sugar was saying, this, like, greater mythos of Star Wars where we have good and bad. We have, like, black and white in everything. So that was fun. I also want to talk about non-attachment because, oh my God, Clea.
I love Clea. I die for Clea.
I am obsessed with how, like, one character that they did a great job with this season is Clea in particular. I fucking love her. I'm obsessed with her actress. I cannot believe this was her, like, first gig out of acting school. They're like, we don't have a bad take with her. Like, that's crazy. She did such an incredible job.
Props to Elizabeth Delau.
She's incredible.
Huge props. I hope to see her in so many things forevermore. I really liked her, like, seeing her and Luthen interact specifically because Luthen has this like level of non-attachment of, like, killing these other people, deciding who in the rebellion is going to be worthwhile and making sacrifices for them. And Clea is, like, more brutal than that. And the entire, like, arc of her making sure that Luthen does not live to be interrogated is beautifully done. And I was watching that and I was just like, that's what non-attachment is. That's her saying, I love this person, but what needs to happen now for the rebellion is his information, everything that he knows, cannot get out. He has to die. He made that decision for himself, and I'm going to make sure that that is, like, carried through. And I love that. And those are my thoughts on themes. I
will say that what Elizabeth said about her killing Luthen, it actually gets even more complicated than that, because she says yes, Clea does love Luthen, but that she also hates him, because Luthen is very directly involved in what appears to be the massacre of her people and the loss of her home. And the loss of her family, presumably. And so that basically Clea kind of both loves and hates Luthen in equal measure. And so the reason she's able to kill him, even though she loves him, is because she hates him. And she can pull on the hatred she has for the man who was at least partly responsible for the loss of everything she knew and loved before. And they've said that, like, this isn't really a father-daughter relationship. They pretended to be father-daughter because it was easy. But that, like, that's not really how they saw each other. Because it is so much more complicated than just like, well, you're my father figure now. Like, he pretends to be that, but that she doesn't really look to him for that kind of support ever, and he doesn't really offer it to her in that way. He is an older man who is guiding her and is protecting her, but he isn't necessarily... I don't think she sees him as a father figure. I don't think he sees himself as a father figure. And it's just this really complicated, messed up, fucked up relationship that, has its moments of beauty and has its moments of true ugliness.
Yeah. That's a really great point, because she never defers to him the way that you would to a father figure. They're very much equals.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of like the two bitches in the workplace who, like, hate each other, but they're the only ones who can get things done. So they're best friends. Like, they hate each other's guts, but they are also best friends. They've been working there for, like, 20 years. They are the only ones who they trust with anything. Everybody else is incompetent except for them, and they know it. But also, they hate each other's guts. Nope. Do you know who they remind me of? Augustine and Mercy Morn. I hate you, both of you. I need you to read Harrow.
Listen.
I only read the first one.
I'm so sorry.
I know! I hate you. I'm cutting this out because I don't want anybody to know how embarrassing you guys are. I'm just kidding.
I guess I'll just say, since you wanted to talk about themes in a positive way, Faye, is there something positive you would like to say about the writing of Andor? Since we did a lot of critiquing, is there something that you liked about the writing of Andor?
Yeah, actually, what I found really interesting is that there are a lot of parallels for Cassian in these two seasons, specifically this season, and Han. Because Han's arc in the first movie is him going back and forth whether he's willing to commit to the rebellion. And, there's a lot of stuff with the girl in there, too. But, like, he's going back and forth on whether or not this is something he wants to, like, stick to. He does eventually turn around and commit to it 100%. And I like the pulling on the thread in Star Wars that they have of these, like, underarching, like, sacrifices. Because Han is making a sacrifice here. He is sacrificing possibly his life, he doesn't know, to go back and pay off Jabba to stay with the rebellion and commit to it. I mean, also, Vader could kill him. These are possibilities for him, 100%. And I liked that thread of, like, here is something that happened in the original trilogy that seems cut and dry, and here's how complicated it actually is to do it in practice. You can have lip service all day long, but when you actually commit to these things, it is a lot more complicated, and that has a lot more effects on your life just from day to day. And I like that they show that. I think they did a really good job with that, actually, in showing, like, how these sacrifices are affecting these characters mentally, and, like, how it's impacting, like, lives around the galaxy. I liked how they worked that into the small scale. I think they do a really good job showing the galaxy on a small scale, much better than anything else Disney's put out, honestly.
Yeah, Star Wars is obviously much more grand. It doesn't tend to get small the way Andor chose to do so.
Yeah, but even when they do, like, with, like, with, their tales, whatever, when they try and do, like, the small scale, even then, like, they're bad at it.
Yeah, the Tales episodes suck.
They always try and, like, pull it back to the
hot take
big things, and, like, that's not what you want. When you're doing a small scale story, you have to keep it small scale. Mm-hmm. Anyways, that's what I really liked about it. I think I really, really enjoyed that.
All right, I'll give a positive, and I will let it run into visuals. One of the things I like a lot, other than, like, I think they're really beautiful at dialogue. Like, the dialogue in Andor feels very realistic. It feels very natural. It also, like, it's not quotable in the sense that there's all these little, like, one-liners around, but it's impactful. Like, there's quotes that you remember because they hit well. And I think that there are moments where the plot is written well and stuff like that. We've talked a lot about places where we felt like it wasn't, but I think there is, like the lead up to Gorman, I think, is fairly good. There's a reason Episode 8 hits. I think that Luthen and Clea's relationship is built up a little bit more in here, so that when you hit Episode 10, that revelation of what the relationship actually is also hits. But the thing that I think I like the most about the writing in Andor is that Andor loves its motifs more than almost anywhere else in Star Wars, weirdly enough. It really, really loves a good motif, and I'll talk about that in the visuals as well, but in the writing, it comes up a lot in quotes, and some of it is specific to Andor, and some of it is referencing Rogue One. So, like, the first one is listening. There's this constant refrain of listening. Like, I noticed it a lot. Like, in each arc, there's something about, like, nobody's listening, or, you know, do you think someone's listening? They're reaching out through, radios and asking if anyone can hear them. Cassian is a messenger, kind of thing. You know, and it relates back to one of Cassian's last lines in life is asking Jyn, do you think anyone is listening? And she says, yes, I do. And that's a really big theme of Rogue One, is that someone, like, there's always hope in that someone's always listening. And I like that gets brought back a lot. There's also the idea of spiders gets brought up. It's a little bit more of a visual, but they talk about the spiders as well. People as fuel for the rebellion and the Empire, in the way that, like, people as fuel keeps coming up. And of course, the very obvious "I have friends everywhere" refrain, and this idea of community and coming together, and that what really allows the rebellion to succeed is people coming together, that you do have this community of people with shared values. Even if you don't know who they are, there is a rebellion out there that exists, and you do have friends everywhere. And I appreciated being able to kind of pick up on the continued motifs in the writing. Within the visuals, I think there are also a lot of motifs that come up, specifically in, like, its cinematography and things like that. There's a lot of, like, reflections. You constantly are seeing reflections of people in windows and puddles, mirrors, mirrored reflections. You know, this idea that not everyone is what they seem. There's also a lot of people looking out of windows, you know, that's kind of gives you anxiety, you know, people being small within their environment. People are constantly framed by their environment in Andor's visual language. You know, it's like it sort of defines who they are, either in that moment or overall, in so many ways. Stairs, there's a constant refrain of stairs, people walking upstairs and downstairs, and, you know, just this transition between who you were and who you are. And things like that. And I just find that really interesting. Like, it just makes for such an interesting visual language. And I just really appreciate that. I think it's really interesting to see all these very different kind of shots than what you normally see, and a very intentionality to what they choose to do for their motifs, both visually and in the writing.
Speaking of, like, cinematography motifs, I really, really enjoyed the parallels between Deidre's apartment and her prison. I thought that was very funny. Mm-hmm. Like, they look really similar, and I was like, oh, when I realized that, I was like, oh, you know what? She'll feel at home in prison. That's good for her. I'm so happy she'll be cozy. I'm so glad she ended up in prison. That was very fun for me.
I think the thing that's interesting about Deidre is that, like, she fits that line that is in Rogue One for Cassian, but, like, you carry your prison with you wherever you go, or you carry your cage with you wherever you go, or whatever. You remember that Chirrut says to Cassian when they get captured by Saw's people, and he's like, oh, this is the first time for me, and Chirrut says, oh, well, I sense that you carry yours wherever you go, and I feel like that's very true for Deidre. Like, Deidre's never known warmth or a home, and so when she's given an apartment, she just kind of builds it like an office. She dresses like she's in an office. She's all, like, even when she's casual, she's in, like, business casual, you know, and she's constantly in black and white. She can't break out of that and even wear brown, you know, like, she just can't do it.
I found her character so, like, interesting, and that, like, she seems to have, like, a lot of, like, conflict, but she also doesn't seem to give a fuck at the same time. Like, she's really, really, really good at her job, but, like, when it comes to, like, murdering people and stuff, like, she's fine with it clinically, but then seeing it up close, she's like, oh, this is horrifying. She doesn't care about the people. She's just horrified that she has to see it. I don't know. It's just, like, this weird conflict in her.
I think it's not that she's, like, horrified by what she's seeing. It's just, like, I mean, obviously with Gorman, the thing is that the guy she likes is out there and potentially going to get killed, and does get killed. And that's where the horror comes from, is this person that she's kind of come to care about and who means something to her is about to die.
And then he does. Yeah, that was great.
And then he does.
And it's
really
beautiful.
It was great.
So
I
good.
really, really, really enjoyed when Cassie was like, I don't know who you are.
Who are you?
Yeah.
Who are you?
Fucking
exactly?
incredible.
Such a
Watching
good
his
line.
face just drain.
There's so many layers to it too. Somehow they managed to make me care about, maybe not care, but be interested in Cyril's like inner workings. That's very impressive because there's no one I hate more in Andor than Cyril. Like, he sucks. But I was like interested in like his inner workings because he does seem to care about the people of Gorman. Like, he is invested in them. But like, he also sucks and is a piece of shit. It was really interesting.
I think Cyril is someone who likes to lie to himself. He likes to believe that he's always on the right side of the story. Right? Yeah. Like with Cassian, when he's going after Cassian, he's telling himself, well, this guy's a murderer. He like murdered these 2 random guards for no good reason. So if I'm going around trying, like, whatever happens to Ferrix, it's all in the name of getting rid of this murderer, and so it's fine. You know, like, he constantly tells himself he's on the right side of history. And when he's on Gorman, he's been told exactly that, right? Like, oh, we think that, like, there might be a rebellion on Gorman. Who knows where it came from, you know? And there might be, you know, they might be getting help from outside agitators, you know, who are coming in to kind of, like, stir up trouble, basically. Like, and so Cyril believes that he's going in to just kind of report on these outside agitators and take those guys out. And then it's not until he's obviously sitting there in the middle of the massacre that he realizes that's absolutely not what's happening here or what he's been sent here to do. And I think it kind of like, it gets very difficult to tell himself he's on the right side of history here, that like he did the right thing and has not been a part of something terrible. And so when he's just standing there in the middle of it all and it's all slow-mo around him, it's this like, you know, he doesn't know who he is anymore because the only thing he's ever believed about himself is that he was right about everything. Mm-hmm. And I think that's why he goes after Cassian so hard, is because he's like, that guy I know. That guy was definitely, you know, the bad guy. So I can, I don't know anything else, but I know that. And he goes after it, and then Cassian goes like, who are you? And, like, that whole identity kind of flies out the window.
Because you can just see him, like, I don't know if this is intended, but, like, feel like there's, like, this layer of him looking at, like, Cassian says that, and he's like, fuck, who am I? Was this all worth it? Like, do I even really know anything? Like, I was wrong about Gorman. Am I wrong about this guy? Like, there's, like, all these, like, layers of his... The actor's really good. The actor's excellent. And
Shout out to Kyle Soller.
He's so good. But, like, there's so many layers to his face right there right before he dies. And also, his death is so poetic. Because this is the guy that, like, he's been lying to this whole time. This is the guy that, like, let him in, that trusted him. And, like...
Yeah, he gets killed by the Gorman rebel.
Yeah, and then he... Not only the Gorman rebel, but, like, he's, like, the town, like, mayor or whatever. And, like, he was responsible for these people. And, like, they're all dying out here. And he can't help them. But he can give this guy justice because this guy was part of it. And he knows that for sure. And, like, I liked that, like... That was such a satisfying thing that, like, he met the end of his own actions. That was just really good. I just really, really, really enjoyed the justice that they gave to those characters. And it's really... you know what pisses me off? Is that Cyril and Deidre were better written than Will and Cinta. I wonder what the difference is in those characters. I don't
think there is one.
I wonder how they're different.
Equivalent. The other thing that I really liked about Cyril, like, while we're talking about
performances,
his acting in general,
yeah.
While we're talking about performances, excellent transition for us. It is really difficult, in my opinion. I don't know. I'm not an actor, to like be a character, like to be acting as a character who is acting, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But Cyril, like the way that Cyril acts in Gorman is so well done. Like seeing his like very staged calls home with his mom because he knows his office is bugged. His actor does such an incredible job because I'm like, I know that you're lying, but I also believe you. And I believe that the people around you are not picking up on that. But somehow the way that you've done this character, it makes it really obvious what's going on, like makes what's going on very obvious to me, and I love that. And
he's being lied to, right? That they're like the element that he thinks is true is a lie, and he doesn't even know it. And there's like so many layers to like the lies that he is doing in Gorman that, like, you know, when he talks to the Gormans, like he knows he's lying, they know he's lying about a certain amount of it, but he's also being lied to, and he doesn't realize that like the things he thinks are true are actually also lies because he's been told they're true.
Yeah.
You know, and there's so many different layers to what is going on with Cyril and Gorman. I actually, like, weirdly enough, like, I remember when we got to the end of season 1 and we all were like, dear God, don't make Dedra and Cyril a thing. That's so dumb. That's so awful. And then I hit this season, I was like, you know, though?
They're compelling. They're interesting.
You know?
I hate them.
I hate them.
It makes me, like, my skin crawl. It's so well done.
It's really well done.
I don't think they made my skin crawl at all. Like, I actually kind of really loved them, and just because, like, they're so weird.
Yeah.
You know, that, like, neither of them quite knows how to do this correctly, but they care enough to try. Like, Dedra cares enough about him to fight his mother on his behalf.
Incredible.
You know, like that scene where she steps in and is like, you know, like, I'll make sure he calls you, you know, because you clearly care about that, and, you know, he should have a relationship with his mother, but, like, that will come at the price of you being nicer.
Yeah.
You know, and, like, it's a compromise. I'll give you one thing, and you give me something in return, and that's how this is gonna go, and if not, you'll never see your son again.
What I found...
And just, like, smack down, and it works. You know, like, she's got her little wet blanket boyfriend, you know, her little wet rat man, and she, like, for whatever reason, this guy works for her, and I don't think she knows why.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think she understands why this man works for her. But, like, and of course Cyril is just sitting there going, like, I have hit the jackpot, you know? Like,
Cyril is like, this person who is dedicated to the same values that I am dedicated to, I'll die for her.
And, like, who is, like, hot and like way higher ranked than he is.
Yeah.
You know, she's an ISB agent. She is competent. They have the same values as far as he's aware. And, you know, and suddenly she's into him. And, like, she's miles out of his league, you know, and, like, you know, can't imagine how grateful he must feel for her attention at all. But yeah, it's just such an interesting relationship. And, like, I don't necessarily want to see more of it. Like I don't, like, go on and find gifs of them or read fics about them or anything.
Ew.
But I actually, like, really enjoyed the scenes they had. Like, I thought that their relationship really worked within the context of Andor, of, like, you know, that these are two people. They are people, right? That, like, even evil fascists are people, and they can fall in love and have relationships and have dinner with their in-laws, you know? Like, I think that was, like, a really interesting way to kind of humanize these two characters who could have so easily been, you know,
one note
2D evil assholes. So I really enjoyed that. While we are on relationship performances, I did, for all the issues there are in the writing of Bix and Cassian, I think Diego and Adria Arjona absolutely knock it out of the park with their performance of Bix
100%.
and Cassian. Like, I loved their scenes together. Like, God, the little hand dance thing from Ferrex that they do, I fucking loved that. Apparently that was, like, Diego's invention. Like, they told him to just kind of do something, I guess, and he kind of came up with that. And, like, Adria didn't actually know what he was going to do. Like, I think he said, like, just follow me. And so he starts doing the hand thing, and she just kind of copies him.
That's so cute.
And, like, it was so beautiful. I fucking loved that scene where it's just this intimacy and affection without needing to be overtly sexual. And I mean, they get a little bit more sexual later, but, like, I think I, like, really bought into the fact that these two people genuinely cared about each other, and the performance of it between the two actors was top-notch. I think everyone here is a top-notch actor. Like, you know, Stellan Skarsgård also knocking it out of the park with Luthen as per usual. I don't know that Diego got as much to do this season as he did in prior seasons. I do think that's unfortunate in the prior season. And that's unfortunate for him. But, yeah, I think, like, these actors are all really stellar actors, and that sells a lot of what the writing isn't selling.
Do we want to hit, before we wrap up, do we want to hit, like, favorite moments? I have a couple that I can share since I was very negative in the beginning.
We were all negative in the beginning.
I stand by what I said.
We all stand by what we said. Sure. Give us a favorite moment.
One of my favorite moments, actually, I'm just going to say every moment with K2SO, I really loved. I think they did a really good job. Like, so much of the visuals just made it a very believable show, and the CGI on K2 is just, like, as good as I could expect. He's so fucking funny. It's incredible. So I love that. I have more. Someone else share one while I think of my rest.
Speaking Kecho, so I really love the moment when he just like walks in and like wrecks that dude's ship, and there's like you just see the blood pouring everywhere, and then he like walks into the building and like rescues all their asses. That was a great moment. I really loved that scene.
Yeah, it was a good time. I really love the scene of Cyril lying on his bed.
The now iconic.
That was very funny.
Which I believe was also like
not scripted.
Something, not an unscripted moment. I mean, I think him doing something, like him just cutting to him being lame, I think was there. But I think he was the one who chose to like droop on the bed like that. Kudos to Kyle for being funny.
Kudos to Kyle.
A more serious one, the moment when the guy realizes what's happening, so he starts singing the Gorman national theme and everyone starts singing with him. That was so beautiful. That was so sad. It was so devastating, but it was so gorgeously shot. It was so gorgeously done. It was devastating. I loved it. It was so well done.
Yeah, we didn't get to hit world building at all, but like shout out to everyone involved in the world building of Gorman, from the conlang that like was clearly so complete that those French actors were speaking to each other in Gorman off camera.
Yeah. Just
on set. Like, they could just speak Gorman to each other.
Incredible.
Because the conlang was, I mean, obviously similar enough to French, but I mean, the costumes, the building of the city and the little plaza, the world, and, just the general idea of what Gorman is, that it's rich, it's got these textiles and the spiders and all of that. Like, the world building of Gorman was really beautiful.
Yeah.
It was really well done.
Yeah. My number one favorite moment is, I believe it's in the very last episode, but it's when, what's Dedra's boss's name? Partagaz?
Partagaz.
When Partagaz, when he's being, like, the other ISB guy, whatever, I'm really good with names, clearly, walks in and tells him, like, it's basically like, we're here to arrest you, and he's, like, sitting there, listening to Nemec's manifesto, and at first, I wasn't sure if that was playing in universe or not, but the fact that it was in universe like genuinely made me cry, because that's all that Nemec would have wanted. And that little moment, like, that does so much more for me than Bix having a baby. Not to be a bitch again, but I'm gonna, like, that little piece of hope of just, this is playing throughout the galaxy, we don't know where it came from, we can't stop it, is just absolutely gorgeous. And on a much more lighthearted note, the fact that they went back to the planet that we saw in the very first arc, and we confirmed that B is okay and has a new little robot friend and is being taken care of, made me very happy, and I appreciate that they did that. I would never have forgiven them if they said, and then we left this planet and we don't know if B's okay, because I love him.
Very important. We love B.
I feel like I've mentioned a couple of my favorites kind of in passing already. I liked the hand dance thing with Bix and Cassian. That one just kind of consistently sticks out to me. We all talked about how much Cyril's end really worked. Just, I mean, the whole fight, like I've watched featurettes on that fight where the stunt choreographers and Diego and Tony Gilroy talk about it, and the thought that went into that fight where, like, Cassian's taken off balance, that he's taken by surprise, means that he is, like, incapable of fighting back for a second because he's, Cyril's got the upper hand for a moment, but that Cassian is the better fighter, and so the moment he gets a second to breathe, he can come on Cyril like a fucking hammer, and the only reason he doesn't win that fight at the end is because the grenade comes in. But, like, the thought that went into that, of the story kind of being told about these characters within a fight, I thought was really well done. But I did like getting to see him get his comeuppance. The actor did a really good job. I'm just going, like, what were the stuff I did like? I liked some of the scenes with Mon Mothma and Lita in that first arc. I think that was some interesting, just like the complexity of that relationship where, like, Lita wants her mother. Like, she does actually want Mom, but,
she doesn't want Mon to be her mom.
I don't even know that that's necessarily true. But there's so much resentment towards Mon and the distance that Mon has had to have that, like, Lita can't really admit it unless she's, like, in an active breakdown. on the floor. Like, she does want Mon there, but she can't actually admit it because she wants to be independent and so on. And I'd love to get to see so much more of Mon and Lita post Return of the Jedi, when Mon has to become Chancellor now or whatever, and and Lita is like a full adult, probably has at least one child, if not multiple, of her own at that point. Like, how does this affect their relationship when Mon is now on the right side of history and like all of the secrets are out? Like, what happens there? Like, I just think there's so much more to do there. But yeah, like I think that some of the relationships they built up, and like everything in episode 10 pretty much, with the Luthen and Clea interactions, both her like walking through the hospital and not the rescue, but the assassination of Luthen, and the backstory. I liked that they set that, like, her first rebellious action, her first insurrection in Naboo. I thought that was a nice little call out, a quiet one, kind of thing.
Alright, would you guys like a goat fact?
I would love
Give us a
one.
goat fact.
Goats have richer emotional lives than many people realize. They are surprisingly intelligent and can learn a task within 12 attempts, and they can identify their friends by sound alone and can distinguish other goats' emotions by listening to their calls. Goats' heart rate variability, the time between heartbeats, is greater when positive calls are played versus negative emotional calls. So when their friends talk to them, they can tell how their friends are feeling.
Aww.
I thought that was very sweet.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. They have friends everywhere.
I know, literally.
Friends everywhere.
The social phenomenon that this is called an emotional contagion.
That's cute. I love that. That's so fun. Our intro and outro music is Mos Eisley Cantina by Speedkicks. Angela and I edit, our artwork is by me, and Sugar is our writer and researcher. You can find us on Instagram and Tumblr at Unleash the Goats. Thanks for listening.